So friends, what does it mean to you to exercise your leadership in church governance?
To me, it means that I'm being part of the solution, not part of the problem. I heard prior to my running for standing committee, there was a lot of rumblings and a lot of, grumping, and I just felt like I wanted to be part of whatever was going to be the solution, whether it was one way or the other, and not just be standing back.
I look at leadership as really like team building, trying to, and collegiality is working together to find the way forward, to find solutions to problems, but always looking for ways to pull together.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate, both of you. For me, it is also kind of like being the oil in the car engine that lets everything flow smoothly. That a part of what I think of is just helping each diocese live and do ministry.
How can we do what is necessary so that the church can move to places that it should go?
Mm-hmm.
So there's an element of facilitation.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So you have worked together as a joint standing committee. It's been about 2 years since you've done this. What assumptions did you have of each other?
As the best I can remember, I don't remember having particular assumptions about Western Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
My experience with Eastern Michigan is if I had assumptions, they were always wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of tried. I think if I remember right, I came in with a pretty open mind, and let's see what this like. Is this like? What's the environment like? What are the folks like? Like I say, I heard preconceived notions tossed about, but those weren't mine.
Mm.
Those weren't mine.
I just sort of didn't know, but we had that first joint clergy retreat.
Mm-hmm.
And we were, divided up into small groups of people from the different dioceses. And I was delighted to hear from my colleagues in Eastern the same passions that we have in Western for ministry, for getting out of the church building and helping the community. One of the people in my group was a deacon at a very tiny parish in Eastern, and doing lots of really cool work, to care for the community. And so, as is usually the case, it just felt like home. Everybody, we're all the same family. It didn't, nothing surprised me at all. But boy, there was a lot of stuff flying around, and fears, and how, this group is this way and that group is that way, and most of it doesn't really apply.
I think for me, being so new to diocesan leadership and involvement, not only did I really didn't know anything about Western other than what I had heard from other people, which really wasn't true either. But I didn't know all that much about the leadership or the structure and function of Eastern Michigan, for that matter. And it's one of the things I've been learning so much about, is not just the both of us together or separate, but just in so many things I've learned in general about the church, how the diocese runs, how it relates to the wider church. There's been so much learning that's gone on. And so I think if I had any preconceived notions, it was probably about structure, only because I knew that you had been around a lot longer than our diocese, being that it was so new. But other than that, that was probably the only thing I really thought might be different, and I haven't really noticed that either. It hasn't seemed to have played out in any way. So,
But coming in fresh or new, I was struck by the friendships that have obviously developed over the years, and because you got together with COVID and then the bishop's resignation, suspension, that stands out actually. It stood out for me, the kind of respect and the relationships, the friendships that have been built, which is apparent in the way you listen to each other and in the deliberations and so on.
Well, to some extent it was a crisis response. We're all in this together.
Right.
So it was, what are we going to do now?
Yeah.
But it was all, what are we going to do?
What are we going to do?
We're all sort of cast out, in this space where we didn't know. But COVID, how do we do COVID? How do we do this without a bishop?
Yeah.
Trying to figure out, how do we do COVID without a bishop?
Yeah.
And so it was really, pulled together.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing how strong the relationships formed just being on Zoom. I mean, when you think about it, most of us had never met in person until relatively recently.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I mean, I never would have thought that would be possible in years past. It was just totally such a foreign idea, and now it's just second nature to us. And the relationships that and like you said, friendships that came about just by seeing someone's little face on a square a screen is just that really came across very strongly in our meetings, that how people really cared about each other and wanted to hear those other opinions. Yeah.
And the speed at which it happened, right?
Yes.
We quickly started working together. It didn't take long at all, and again, because of the crisis, right?
Yes.
We just boom, we started working together. It just happened. I mean, there was no option for it not to happen.
Yeah, working together and continuing onward. Somebody asked me recently, well, did you ever think about this is ridiculous and just go back to where you were?
Mm-hmm.
And we never did.
We never
no,
did.
it never even occurred to us.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's to move forward.
Yeah.
Just try to figure out how to move forward. But it was never any question about moving forward.
And never any question about moving forward being moving forward together.
Yeah,
It was absolutely clear to us that was just, it never even occurred to anyone on this either standing committee to think of retreating in that way.
Do you have a sense of why?
Well, again, I think it was a situation we were in that we realized none of us really knew what to do independently or separately. And certainly Eastern Michigan didn't have any clearer idea than Western Michigan. It was the idea that it was, again, the crisis response of we got to figure this out together. We have a better chance at it if we were together than we separated.
Yeah.
That's all I can think of. I mean, we never, here we are. What do we do now? But it was always we, and there was no us, them.
You all had some long meetings.
Yes.
As I was getting ready to come on the standing committee, I went back and read some of those minutes. I looked at the times and went, what have I gotten myself into? Luckily, it was not, by that time it had, calmed down, but it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, were we meeting weekly at one point?
Yes, we were.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Just to bring a little conciliar theology into it, we were in council and the Holy Spirit showed up. Right?
There you go.
And so it didn't make any sense to us to stop doing that because the Holy Spirit was in the room helping us out. So any idea of us not getting together in council and experiencing the Spirit in our gathering was simply, that was just out of the question. I mean, it wasn't. I really felt immediately close to everybody. That was just, the Spirit was there.
But it's funny, Barbara was talking about seeing it from here up on little squares, and when we had a chance to finally get together, she said, I didn't realize how tall you were.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Were there things that surprised you about the other dioceses?
I'll say this, if it was surprise, I was surprised at how much the same we are.
We hear that over and over, don't we?
Right.
Because, the Diocese of Western Michigan is larger. is considerably older than we are. And so you say, oh, you know, they're probably hidebound and not very flexible, and that's not true. You know, we've had, well, at that point, we've had 2 bishops. The whole life of the diocese, 2 bishops.
Yeah.
You know, how many have you had? I don't know, 20, 30, I don't know.
A lot.
A lot.
I was just delighted at the sameness as well. That we had very similar issues, concerns, very similar mixtures of skills and abilities in each standing committee, and that we connected and worked as a team relatively quickly. There wasn't a lot of Eastern versus Western, or we're going to do it this way, you do it that way. There wasn't any, almost none of that.
And no posturing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
That's
everybody
amazing.
was real.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I was very pleased by how not just Western but Eastern, everyone was so open to new things, new ways of doing things. There was none of this, well, we've always done it that way, we have to keep doing it that way, that which often is what drags us down. And so there was a lot of talk. If someone brought up a new idea, it wasn't immediately dismissed. It was like people were given the space to really explore, you know, new ideas. And I've heard that, you know, in all the meetings I've been in, that people are just very open to new things and working together to do new things. So
I agree. That was my experience too. No, I have never heard we've never done it that way from anyone. I also think that because we were thrown into a pandemic and a bishop on suspension, it was clear to all of us that there were no preceding models to use.
True.
You know, I think that's also true. We were all really clear. We're figuring this out now because it's not been there.
And the whole start of this thing before COVID, before the bishop's suspension, is we were doing new things. You know, these 2 dioceses looking to work together, possibility of juncture, but maybe not juncture. This is all new.
Yeah.
But I had a classmate when what I call the academy, the beta version of the academy, classmate who's no longer with us, may she rest in peace. But she said, "I'm going to get rid of Canon 40 and Canon 41." And Canon 40 is, we've always done it that way. And Canon 41 is, we've never done it that way.
Yeah.
Were there specific things that you've learned from this bi-diocesan partnership that you can think of?
Well, certainly we can work together. And if we can work together, why can't everybody else work together, right?
Right.
You know, not that there was any problem with us working together, but that's the point. There wasn't any problem with us working together. Our contexts are so similar that we can do that, even though they're different contexts, understanding, but the similarities way outweigh the differences, which is a truism with that throughout the Christian church. If we look at what is similar to almost any other Christian denomination, that way outweighs the differences that we get stuck with. But we have now experiential evidence that yes, we can work together.
I've learned that grace is freely given. I've experienced that, and hopefully we'll have a chance to reciprocate.
One of the things I have learned is it is shared by our 2 dioceses, and I think shared church-wide, a real hunger for the broader structures of the church to facilitate Christian mission and ministry in vibrant ways. That we share a desire that bishop and diocesan structures help to make things happen. Not that they're just traditional or historical or organizational, but that they're catalysts. You know, there's a real desire for our common life to be a catalyst of our local life. And that seems to be everywhere. Every parish. I've not heard anyone that didn't say from either place that's not said some version of that.
Prompters.
Yes.
Of mission ministry.
You know, I have seen times when, and I have experienced it as someone who was a diocesan staff member, sometimes that sense of, oh, here comes the diocese, right? I don't experience that too much anymore in our two dioceses. It's more, people are more open to something new happening. And that's, and more of a sense of our diocese, that they're ours.
Brian, you and I both saw that at the Up North Summit, that the parishes were very open to working with the diocese in ways that maybe they wouldn't have been just a few years ago.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Because that's what you just said was very important. Because there was a lot of resistance, almost without justification, without even explanation. It's just that we don't want to be told what to do. I think maybe COVID and the situation we're in now, or have gone through, maybe is what has changed that. That maybe we are more receptive to working together. Back before we had Prince, before we had a bishop, and so the standing committee was the ecclesiastical authority, and I was on the standing committee, so I'd show up at a church, and I say, well, you've now got 1/6 of the visitation. And the congregation would laugh.
Yeah.
So what are your big, hairy, audacious dreams for the two dioceses? The church.
That we all can have a way, a vision, and a feeling that we can live into the vibrancy and the vitality that God desires for us. That all of our congregations and all of our people in the diocese can feel empowered, engaged, led by the Spirit into those missions and ministries that we are truly called to do. We can find mechanisms, and I know there's not one, there's no silver bullet, but we can discover the mechanisms that will allow congregations and people to live into their call. That's my wish, my dream.
It's beautiful.
And that we really be willing to throw it all up in the air and discover in the process new models. You know, not just reworking old models, but new models that fit today's world and today's economy, that we find ways for small churches to not always feel like they're on the edge, that we find ways to help bigger churches to not always feel separated from or isolated from the smaller churches, or like they're funding them, which they're not, but that's the attitude you run into sometimes. You know, but that we really, you know, there's a way of being church that is right for today, and I don't know that we've gotten anywhere near it yet.
My dream, and this comes mainly probably because of this, it's probably my dream, what I hope also others feel, is that they can express their faith, talk about their faith, and get the message to those who don't know us. Because I think as a lay person and as Episcopalian, we're not really taught the words, like how to speak about it.
How to tell
You
your
know,
faith story.
what you feel in here, it's really hard to get out into words, to know the words without feeling preachy or without feeling, you know, it's very uncomfortable. And part of that is just starting. But at my ripe old age, I am just now trying to find those words. And it's like, I wish I would have had some of this these ideas, years ago, I think, geez, where would I be now? I hope that we can, encourage people to do that and just start those conversations and try to get people comfortable talking about it. Because I think just like what we're doing right now, it's difficult to put yourself out there, and I think that's a challenge for us. But it's my dream as well.
I'd love it if, when the media used the word Christian, they didn't use it meaning, fundamentalist, anti-everything, everybody's going to hell, but that they began to realize that Christian meant varieties of things, even what those wild Episcopalians are out there doing in the world. That would be delightful. I would love it if the media would be asking, what are those Episcopalians doing now?
Would the presiding bishop say that we need more crazy Christians?
Right.
Yeah.
We have a great message. We just need to say it in ways that people will accept. On Trinity Church in West Branch, on their webpage, has a statement that I adopted from a statement by Coventry Cathedral about welcome, and everybody is welcome. And here's everybody, and just listing all the different everybody's.
Yeah.
Well, a young transgender woman showed up at our church a while ago, and she showed up once, and then she came again, and again, and again, and now she's here, and she's on the vestry, and she's in the confirmation. I shouldn't say this, but she's going to be confirmed, and she's an acolyte. So one of us asked her, "What brought you here?" And she said, "I went to your website and I read the message and I wanted to see if it was true." And it is.
Yeah.
And it is.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I too believe that we have a very important message to offer, and each of us has a different message. It's really important to help us find our voice and be authentic to our gospel story. I have mine, you have yours. Like that, if every Episcopalian in East and West Michigan can live into it and be comfortable, then I think people will know, then we will not be the best kept secret. Because that's what I keep hearing, we've got such a big message and nobody knows about it. So the only way they will know about it is for us to tell. I mean, I've been here 8 months now and I encounter that all the time. People actually are able to do it and hungry to do it. And I think the joy is in everybody. It just has to be stoked so that they live into that more and more. And then it becomes a choice every day in that sense of the word. So, my read of Eastern and Western Michigan is that these are amazing people with the deep faith. And if this can be kinetized, this potential, it's going to really blow up in that sense of the word. And then the press will have to cover us because these crazy Episcopalians will actually live into their faith. So it's a very exciting opportunity that I see. Yeah.
And Bishop, if you keep saying that, maybe we'll start to believe it. But this is what builds on that, your confidence to be able to give that message out. Because we can't do it by ourselves individually. But together we can do it.
Together we can.
So the more times we have to gather together in fellowship, the better we're going to be at this whole Christian thing.
Yes. I just want to say thank you, Barb and Brian and Randall, for your deep loyalty to Christ and the way you express it by leading. I mean, the kind of sacrificial time and energy that you have put into all of this during a pretty crazy season. is inspiring. It certainly has been very inspiring to me to see leaders like you in action without really, looking for any compliments or anything like that. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of the church. Thank you.
And
Yeah,
you are
very welcome.
It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
And thanks for coming and being with us.
Yes.
It's been a
Very
joy.
much.
Thanks be to God.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate
Hallelujah.
it.